Welcome back to Chickens. Yeah, with how fast I'm able to get videos out now, maybe more videos in between the recent reads. So, I wanted to do a lot. Oh. So, another one, the reason why I didn't mention the drawn in problem video is that one of the reasons why it bothered me is because then I didn't really know what I really like in books. But now, since I've gotten out of that need to be drawn in, I'm kind of figuring out more things I like in books. So this may not be the same for all time. There might be more things that get added, but yeah, as of now, these are the things I like in books. So let's get into it. Before we get into the different specific things I like to see in books, I thought I'd talk more generally about genres that I like. Because if you've been around my channel based on the kinds of things, there might be some misconceptions about what genres I actually like. So first of all, while I do read a lot of romance, I wouldn't say it's my preferred genre. But the reason why I read a lot of romance is because one, all anyone ever talks about is romance. Like that's all people yap about, and so and then and it's not like I want to be like other people, but it's like all you hear about are those books. Maybe I'm just bad at finding people who are not into romance as much, but yeah, and the second reason is because it is close to my actual preferred genre, which we will get to what that is in a bit. And another reason is because I want to support the clean and closed door books, because, we need more of those. But usually books that are advertised as clean or closed door are romance books, so yeah. Yeah, I want to support them, but then they can only support them by reading romance. And I think, like, if anyone can tell me of a book that's, like, not a romance, but is advertised as, like, clean or closed door, let me know it. Put it in the comments. So, yeah. And then I also want to touch on, so, thrillers. Um, my first thriller was Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney, and I was sold on the thriller genre. And then after that, I read Darling Girls, which I also really liked that one, even though some people will say it's not actually a thriller. And then next was All the Dangerous Things, which some people also say isn't much of a thriller. But then I read Rock, Paper, Scissors, and it was spookier than I expected, which, like, I don't know what I expected. Then I was kind of like, after that, I was like, is this what most thrillers are like? Because if so, I don't think I want to be into this genre. So, yeah. So now, let's get to my actual preferred genre, which is, drumroll please, realistic fiction. So, I think it was, most of what I read in high school was realistic fiction. Some of my favorite books to be called it. Although it feels like that genre has kind of died. Now it's usually like contemporary or YA or whatever they say. So someone should do a video on that. The death of realistic fiction. So now that we've gone through genres, let's get into the actual things I like to see in books. So the first thing that I like to see in books is friendship, particularly female friendship. I'm not exactly sure why this is. Maybe it's because I don't have a lot of friends right now, but I just like seeing like relationships between women and like these things. So a good example of female friendships that I really liked was It's Complicated by Laura L. Smith. So so I read this whole series, it's called Status Updates, last year, and I meant to make a video on the series, but I just never got around to doing that because I was slower at getting videos out back then. But I think at this point I should just reread the series and then I can talk about it. So yeah, so this book is about four girls. Some of them knew each other prior, but they all meet and they like click really well, and they decide that they're gonna room together in college because they meet on like orientation day or something. So then the first half of this book is about the rest of their summer vacation and the different issues each girl has with boys. So I with that say the second half of this book is more focused on these girls' friendships, and I've seen um, some reviewers of this book say that this book shows the importance of female friendship, and I think for me what really got me was like one scene that I don't think I can talk too much about without giving spoilers. There's one scene kind of around the halfway point that just had me want to go to this book. So yeah, friendship, yes. Thing that I like to see in books is hard to sum up shortly, so I'll have to explain it more after, but I'll call it now unique organizations. What I mean by that is like it's not just chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, that. It's like different sections that may be not as long as a part, but no, no shorter than a part, but like not as long as a chapter, and there can be like different things in between it. So hopefully that made sense. And the book that I'd say is responsible for liking this style is Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I actually have two copies of this book. The first one I have has a note in the front. So this is the movie edition of this book. So this is one of my all-time favorite books. I would stay up late just rereading parts of this book. Yes, I love this. So this book is about a boy named August, though most people call him Augie, and he was born with like facial deformities, so like all these different kinds of things, and when he was young, he had a lot of surgeries about this thing. So this book starts when he's going into 5th grade, and he is going to be going to a real school for the first time. He was homeschooled before that, so now he's going to the new school, and this book's kind of about that and these different things. And the cool thing about this book is that there's different sections which like with different POVs from different characters. We have POV from Augie, obviously, but then we also get a POV from his sister, from some of his friends, from his sister's boyfriend, all these things, and so yeah, I think because it's I think that this book is the reason that I like this. Another book that kind of has this unique organization is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. This is the different sections are each kind of named, and kind of the section is themed after a different book that Liesel stole. Although I don't think all the books were stolen that were named after. Yeah, and then I nearly forgot that I added this to my notes. A more recent read that kind of fits into unique organization is 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. So this book is kind of is structured around the tapes that this girl left behind, and our main character like listening to all these tapes, and then so it starts with like each different tapes, like tape number this side A or B, and then different sections where it shows where you like paused it and then played it again, and like it's yeah. I didn't love that. I didn't love 13 Reasons Why as much as I like The Book Thief and Wonder. Yeah, but that was a cool aspect of it. So yeah, that's like I guess kind of hard to define that I like in books is we'll call it a masterpiece feel. So then there's a lot of factors that go into masterpiece for me. It's like writing and like kind of structuring and yeah, that's it. So the book example that that I that comes to mind when thinking like masterpiece feels actually If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is interesting. So before I read this book, I had mainly heard like negative things about it. But I was still curious, so I read it, and the like first part, maybe about a third, maybe a little over, is like pretty good. There was some part in the middle where I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not drawn in, I'm not into this stuff. But then towards the end, I had the thought of, this feels like a masterpiece. And I think that's what won me over. Now, that being said, and I should probably add this to all the videos where I talk about this book, as much as I liked If We Were Villains, I would not recommend this book. Well, I personally can't recommend it to anybody because some of the main elements I'd say that I don't really agree with, and then even if you do agree with those elements, you still might not like this book. It's like, um, so I just feel like everyone who should read this book has read this book, so yeah, I don't recommend it. Moving on. This next thing I like in book, this isn't necessarily like 5-star feel vibes, but it is making a fun time. Is high school drama. Yeah, I know. Like, come on, come on. The drama is fun to read about. Like, it's not that fun to experience, but like hearing about it is kind of like. And I totally blame all the Melody Carlson books I read. Like, hey, like compared to all those books, my high school experience was kind of boring. So, book example that I'm trying to think because again I read a lot of Melody Carlson books and I could use a lot of these ones. But I think one of the ones that I liked more but also had a good amount of drama would be The Best Friend, which is the second book in the Life at Kingston High series. This one I remember I read this whole book in like 3 days. And I remember kind of thinking like maybe I shouldn't have read it all in that short time, but yeah, it was a fun time. A lot of, I guess maybe some twists and turns as well, maybe a little bit. So yeah, the last one, I hesitate to say it's like a buzzword or like something that makes me interested because the books that I've picked up recently with this have been misses, but that is Orphanage. Yeah, not different things, but I guess I just like places where a bunch of kids are all living together. So yeah, there's that. But then yeah, there were some misses in recent years. Silent Tears by Bratt I read in 2023 and I didn't really like that. And then last year, The Orphanage by Lizzie Page is also like meh. But again, though I think I didn't really like that it was from the perspective of people who were working at the orphanage and not from the kids. I'm more into kids. So, I would say what is responsible for me liking this is, of course, oh, okay, not necessarily this book, but like, like the movies and the musical, like that. But interesting thing about this book. So this book is written by Thomas Meehan, who wrote the musical of Annie, and apparently it like includes this in the book. There was so much more that he wanted to include in the musical, but that stuff ended up getting cut because the musical would have been too long. But he still wanted those ideas to get out there somewhere. So, and I think it also says here that he was inspired by Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist. So I think this is what he said. I'm probably paraphrasing, but I think he thought, well, if Charles Dickens can write a book, then I can. So yeah, he wrote this book, including, and if you saw my book unhaul video, you might remember that I got rid of Driven by Emotions because there wasn't much in there that you wouldn't get from the movie. That is not the case with this book. There is a lot in here, particularly in the first half, that you wouldn't get from the musical or the movies. So, yes, this is one. And then another book I like that this is kind of more recent read. I think I read this in 2022. That is Castaway Kid by R.B. Mitchell. And so this book is the true story of a man who was part of like the last generation of kids who grew up in an orphanage, at least in the U.S., because I know there's still orphanages in other parts of the world, but one of the last generation of orphanages in the U.S. about this guy, his experience growing up there, and like all the things. So yeah, and I liked this one. So yeah, I think that is it for this video. Um, yeah, I don't know how to end this. If you guys have any suggestions based on the books I've recommended or the things I've said, please be sure to leave them in the comments. But anyways, that is it, and goodbye.